They handed me divorce papers while I was lying in a hospital bed 7 months pregnant. An IV taped to my arm. My heart still racing from stress contractions the doctor said were concerning. 3 signatures. That was all they wanted. My husband stood at the foot of the bed like he was closing a business deal, not ending a marriage. His voice was calm, almost bored. "Just sign it, Emma. Let's not drag this out." And in that moment I realized something terrifying and clarifying at the same time. This wasn't the worst day of my life. This was the day everything finally snapped into focus. Let me rewind a little because none of this makes sense without the quiet years before it. The years where I smiled, stayed small, swallowed things I shouldn't have swallowed and let people believe whatever made them comfortable. I married Daniel Carter 5 years earlier after meeting him at a charity fundraiser in downtown Boston. He thought I was an assistant. I didn't correct him. Not because I was hiding something dark, but because I wanted to know who he was when he thought I had nothing to offer but myself. You know what I mean? Daniel was charming back then. The kind of guy who could make a waiter laugh and talk passionately about changing the world in the same breath. He had ambition, big dreams, and just enough insecurity that he needed to be admired constantly. I told myself that was normal. I told myself love meant patience. I told myself a lot of things. When we got married, I stepped easily into the role his family expected. The quiet wife, the grateful one, the woman who should be thankful she married into a respected, established family. His mother, Lorraine, never missed a chance to remind me of that. She'd say it with a smile, always a smile like, "We've worked very hard for what we have, Emma." Not everyone understands that kind of legacy. Translation: know your place. What Lorraine never asked was why her financial stress disappeared 6 months after the wedding. Why the company Daniel's father left behind suddenly found investors at the perfect moment. Why Daniel's consulting firm landed contracts he technically wasn't qualified to win yet. Nobody ever asks where the ladder came from if they're already climbing it. I worked at a nonprofit, or that's what I told them. What I didn't say was that I founded it, or that I funded it, or that before I was 30 I had built a portfolio quietly enough that no one bothered to Google me. I didn't need applause, I needed peace, and for a while I thought I had it. Then Daniel changed. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe I just stopped making excuses for him. The stress got worse. His temper got shorter. The criticism got sharper. And when I got pregnant instead of joy, I felt suspicion ripple through his family like poison. Lorraine accused me of planning it. His sister Claire joked that I was locking it in. Daniel didn't defend me. He just looked tired, detached, like I was another problem he didn't want to deal with. 3 days before the hospital, Lorraine showed up unannounced. She was already angry when she walked in. By the time she walked out, she'd told me I was manipulative, irresponsible, a liability. When I tried to explain the doctor's concerns about stress and the pregnancy, she laughed. Actually laughed. And then she told me to get out of her son's house. The house I had purchased through a trust she didn't know existed. She pushed me. Not hard, but enough. Enough to make her point. Enough to send me to the ER hours later. Daniel didn't come with me. He texted that he needed space. Instead, he came the next morning with papers and his new girlfriend, a woman named Brooke, who couldn't even pretend to feel awkward standing there. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, wearing confidence like armor. Claire arrived not long after lawyer in tow, eyes cold, voice sharper than I remembered. "Just sign," she said. "You've taken enough." That word stuck with me. Taken. Because all I could think was how much I'd given. Quietly. Willingly. Without ever asking for credit. But I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I picked up the pen. And when I signed those papers, everything changed. Daniel's phone buzzed. Once, twice, then again. He frowned, checked the screen, waved it off. But the buzzing didn't stop. His posture shifted. Claire leaned closer. Lorraine called screaming into the phone so loudly I could hear her without the speaker. Bank accounts frozen. Credit lines pulled. A loan rejected without explanation. The consulting firm's biggest client walking away citing reputational risk. They looked around the room like someone had swapped the air out without warning. Panic does that. It makes people search for logic where there is none. Finally, Daniel looked at me. Really looked at me. "Why are you so calm?" he asked. Suspicion creeping into his voice. "What did you do?" I smiled. Not out of cruelty, out of exhaustion. Nothing, I said softly. I just stopped fixing things. The truth spilled out after that. Not dramatically, not with a speech, just facts. The non-profit, the investments, the bank he'd applied to that morning, the board I chaired, the shell companies that dissolved the moment our marriage legally ended. Claire went pale. Lorraine went silent. Brooke backed toward the door like she suddenly remembered somewhere else she needed to be. Daniel sat down hard like his legs forgot their job. "You're lying," he said, but his voice didn't believe it. The puzzle pieces were already rearranging themselves in his head. Every lucky break, every door that opened, every time failure missed him by inches. "I loved you," I told him, and that was the hardest part. "I built your dreams because I thought one day you'd see me standing next to you, not beneath you." My hand rested on my stomach, instinctive, protective. "But you never looked. You never asked. You just assumed." He begged. Of course he did. Promised to fix it. Promised he didn't know. But not knowing because you never cared enough to ask isn't innocence, it's entitlement. And entitlement always sends the bill eventually. The nurse came in then, professional firm telling them to leave. Stress was dangerous. The baby's heartbeat echoed steady through the room, grounding me. They filed out slowly, stunned, ruined, silent. Daniel looked back once like he wanted to say something meaningful. There was nothing left. Later alone, I stared at the signed papers and felt something hollow. Not victory, not grief. Just the strange quiet that follows a storm you didn't want but couldn't stop. I made a few final calls. Set up protections, a trust for my child, education, health care, independence, and one condition. Daniel would receive statements, not to punish him, to remind him. Because this isn't a story about revenge. It's about what happens when you mistake quiet strength for weakness. When you build your life on someone else's silence and assume it means they have nothing to say. I didn't destroy them. I stepped back. Gravity did the rest. So here's my question for you. Was I wrong? Where does accountability end and cruelty begin? Have you ever watched someone underestimate the very person holding everything together? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear them. And if this story made you uncomfortable, good. Sometimes discomfort is where the truth lives.